Oh, shit. I just realized something. I realized, oh,
What's that?
damn it. I set it up wrong. I set it.
Oh,
I
that's all
took,
right.
uh, hang on.
Was that
Uh,
link that you tweeted out going to be dead?
it might be. Hang on. Oh, my Lord. I cannot
That's
believe
all
I
right.
did
I'm
that.
not in any rush, man. So we can just we'll get it
Let's
the way
see.
we want it, and then we'll hit it.
Oh, no. No. Why can't we? Oh, rats of frats. Oh, wait. Hang on a second. Let's see. Let's go over to here. Oh, maybe people see us now. I don't know. Hey, you guys, we're gonna have to edit that. Maybe everyone sees us. You're live. Oh, we're live. Oh, wow. We're live on a different URL. Hello, everyone. This is new. Adam set it up all messed up, but my people are already here, wondering why doesn't Adam know he's live? Well, dudes, hello, everyone. The title is wrong. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the One Bitcoin Show. That's the correct name of the show. Today is October the 27th, 2020. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin conviction. I'm offended by selling. You can tell that I had conviction for this show. I set up the wrong URL, but hey, life goes on. We'll properly name this in a few seconds. Hello, my elite friends. If you have questions, I have answers, and so does Denver Bitcoin here. So you can ask us questions about Bitcoin mining. This is going to be a unique beast type of show. So my elite friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Denver Bitcoin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here. I'm glad we connected.
Yeah. So a few people familiar with the show or who watched, I guess, over a week ago, found out that I stumbled upon your Twitter feed and I was fascinated because it appeared that you were mining Bitcoin in Denver the same way that Steve Barbour up in Alberta mines Bitcoin, which is with excess natural gas. And we'll talk about the specifics of that. And I had no idea that anybody was doing it in the United States. And so I was excited because all these people love the FUD on Bitcoin, saying that China dominates Bitcoin mining. And so when I see a story about Bitcoin mining in North America, I get excited. So I informed everyone, and then someone said you should get him on the show, and I said I will get him on the show. So this is what happens when you're in motion. I contacted Denver Bitcoin, bam, he's on the show. So Denver Bitcoin, I guess tell us your story from the beginning. How'd you get into Bitcoin, first of all?
I guess I got kind of a weird story. So in around November of 2017, I had accepted a job to go be the director of marketing and sales for this upstream oil and gas software company. And the software that we were selling was a production management and reporting software. So it helps the operators, the producers, capture their data volumes, right? So capture all their volumes and report to the state based upon what is going on site. And I had no oil and gas experience, right? I just was ignorant to the industry. So my job was going to start around January of 2018, but I had a couple of months where I wanted to prepare for this new position I was going to take. So the hired me. They helped me really dive deep into oil and gas. I started going to trade shows, started going to the Denver Athletic Club where they have oil and gas events, and all the big producers and their reps come. And I just really started to inundate myself with what upstream oil and gas is, what happens on site every day, because in order for me to be able to sell this software product, as well as demo the software product, I needed to understand oil and gas. So I headed down that road. And at this point, I heard about Bitcoin a few years before. Around 2015, I had a good buddy, try to tell me to buy, which I foolishly didn't listen to his advice. But so I had kind of an idea of it, but just like many people, I thought it's likely a scam, and just kind of shrugged it off, right? So once I'd gotten into that oil and gas position, I started, getting deeper and deeper into upstream oil and gas production, meeting with a lot of producers. And one thing I was realizing that all these producers had a problem, and their problem was flared gas, right? It was waste gas or stranded gas. And so I just kind of initially thought, how is this such a problem, right? I mean, the oil and gas industry is been around for a long time. And how is there not an economic solution to solving this stranded or waste gas problem? So I started looking into how other people were, like, how people had tried in the past, what kind of methods are used to either mitigate the gas or try to bring it to market, besides a pipeline, of course. And I realized it's a huge problem. It's an economic problem because there's just no way to bring that gas to market in a profitable manner, right? You can't store it in a truck. You can't. I mean, people have tried to do like deep salt mine storing where they or they liquefy the natural gas. They build LNG plants, and that's really expensive. So, it was just one of those things where I had this really good understanding of this problem that existed. And then about, I'd say, February of 2018, I was seeing the news articles about Bitcoin crashing. I think it was down to like $8,000 or something maybe at the time. And I was interested to know how the scam worked, right? Because I mean, that's what the news was. It was, Bitcoin, the bubble popped, everyone got scammed or something. Like that's what I was reading. So I started to try to figure out, hey, what were the mechanics of this Bitcoin thing? And why did people think it might have value? How did people buy in? Was it a pyramid scheme, et cetera? And in order to understand how Bitcoin was a scam, in my mind, I needed to understand mining, because, how is this thing produced? What the hell is mining? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that was a rabbit hole I went down really hard. And I'd say it ended right around when I started looking at kind of the thermodynamics of computer science, and how, you can't, the easiest execution that or easiest computation a computer can execute is a hash, and there's no way to execute a hash without at least some kind of energy, right? Some amount of energy. You can't do it without energy. So, these principles started to kind of, I guess, concrete and solidify in my mind. And I realized, hey, there might be a way with Bitcoin mining, there might be a way to economically bring this gas to market. Like, I think maybe you could mine Bitcoin on this wasted gas, and if you can even break even, then these oil and gas producers would be ecstatic, because they'd be able to mitigate their volumes, right? Their polluted volumes, if you will, and get the regulators off their back, be able to produce more hydrocarbons, and in turn, better allocate all their resources as a business. So I started to go down that, right? I just started to dive into, is this possible? So I started looking at, what kind of conversion from natural gas to electricity is there? What kind of generators are out there? Is anybody else talking about this? And I couldn't find anybody talking about it. I was on the internet. I was Googling, mining on flare gas, all this stuff. And I couldn't find anyone. So I put up some Google alerts to see if, when news articles pop up or something. And somewhere along the line, I found Upstream Data. So I found Steve Barbour's webpage. And I mean, I got to tell you, when I read his webpage, it was almost like a weight was lifted off of me, right? I was like, oh my God, this is real. Somebody is doing this. Somebody else is thinking this way. And somebody else has been thinking this way a lot longer than I have, obviously. So at the same time that it kind of gave me this relief, it also put this huge pressure on me, because I really wanted to get involved. So I shot Upstream Data an email. I think it was like the sales generic email that they had on the website, and was just like, hey, I think what you're doing is going to be the future. Any chance we could hop on a phone call or something? I'd just love to talk to you about it. I'm thinking about trying to do a similar kind of a process here. And Steve was just emailed me back. He was like, yeah, let's hop on a call. So, we had like a 30-minute call scheduled or something. And I think I kept him on the phone for a couple hours, right? I just wouldn't stop asking him questions. Wouldn't stop. I mean, I was so excited about it, right? I was so passionate about this concept, because the amount of wasted natural gas, just even in North America, is astronomical. I mean, this is a problem that it's seemingly unsolvable, right? So, after speaking with Steve, that's when I got really serious. I was like, okay, this is real. I want to do this. And that's when I laid out all the steps to how I would get there, how I would get involved.
Okay. I mean, this is, I'm so impressed about you being in motion. You came up with this idea on your own, and it was already born in Canada, and you found out about it. So when did you exactly, when was the day that you started mining it? When did it become a reality?
It became a reality like later 2019.
Okay, later, right? 2019.
So yeah. So it took me about a year. So I mean, because like I said, I had some. I mean, I wanted to get involved, right? But so this is the thing. When you look at this problem, there are people involved, right? There's the operator, the energy producer. Then you have somebody like a Steve Barbour or an Upstream Data that would be able to provide and build infrastructure and has the means and the know-how to bring this gas to market economically. But it's extremely capital intensive, right? I mean, gensets are not cheap. As people know, ASICs aren't cheap. And there's a lot of other things that go into it. So, it's at the end of the day, somebody has to provide a lot of capital to this process. So, I thought, hey, there's no reason for me. I mean, I initially started to look at like, hey, how, could I have somebody build me an engine? I was calling people here in the United States, these companies that build generators, and most of them are like standby generators for people's houses and stuff. So, and then I started looking at some companies that are service companies for oil and gas, and seeing if they, would be able to provide me a genset, a generator that made sense and could run continuously, those kinds of things. So, looking at all that, I mean, once I found Steve, I just was like, well, that's fucking stupid for me to go try to overcome that barrier. This guy already has incredible know-how, has, I think at that point he had maybe 18 months or something of fiddling around with this idea, at least personally. And then he was slowly becoming, an established, I guess it's almost like an oil field service company. And I was like, okay, so it makes sense for me to just have Steve build me stuff, because Steve is the best in the world right now, in my opinion. He's the only guy in the world that I knew of at the time. And I was like, okay, he knows exactly what he's doing. I can definitely, have him build me what I want. And he's really easy to work with. So, I don't have the infrastructure necessarily. I'm not building the genset, and I didn't have natural gas. So what I thought I could do is I could provide capital, right? I could provide capital to this process. I could bring the capital as a third party. I could help this oil and gas producer solve their problem and then they don't have to pull any money out of pocket and take any risk with buying these engines and computers, and they don't have to bet on Bitcoin. And again, this is 2018. You got to remember, the price is crashing. The thing's a scam. It's all fucking over. So, oil and gas producers aren't real keen on spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy these fucking computers that might be obsolete in a month. So, that mitigates a lot of the risk in the kind of the agreement. So that was when I realized, okay, I think I could do that. And I realized, one, I'm not making enough money at my job. So I immediately went and found another job that would pay me more. And because I needed to build up enough capital to be able to take part in this venture. And then once I found another job to make some more money, I lived so incredibly frugally, saved every cent and bought a lot of Bitcoin. Then I used my Bitcoin as collateral to leverage equity in the company that we started, and called Steve and said, hey, you want to build me some stuff? And he said, yeah. So, maybe it seems simple that way. And this is over the course of months, right? And a ton of conversations, a ton of phone calls and emails. I changed my mind 100 different times. And I realized at the end of the day that it makes most sense for the oil and gas producers to actually be the ones invested in this process, right? But at the time, they didn't want anything to do with it. And I wanted to help push this forward. I wanted to help Upstream Data grow. I was happy to give Steve, write him big checks and take risk alongside him in a way, right? By entering this space. And I mean, even if I thought it wasn't going to be profitable, I probably would have done it, because I was so compelled to try.
So you've been doing this for a year now. So first of all, you have set a blueprint in motion for other people to follow, for other people to replicate. I mean, you did all the hard work here to set up how to open up.
Steve did the hard work.
Oh, no,
Steve did the hard work.
Okay. No, he did that, but you did the next level. How do you set? He was the originator. Then you
Definitely
created a blueprint on how people can replicate what he's doing up there in the United States. So, I mean, first of all, it's weird. Have you gotten any media inquiries about this? Because this is a big story. No. This is
well, no, man, I'm nobody. I mean, media should call Steve, right? Because I mean, he, like I say, like, yeah, they probably do. I think, I'm like a third party in kind of the mix, right? And it's not something that, I don't think upstream data would even provide, third parties come in. Maybe they do. I don't really know, what Steve's at. I know he works with producers pretty much directly. But again, I think people underestimate how capital intensive it is. Even just 100 MCF a day of gas, right? Which isn't a whole lot of gas to be flared, is maybe what, $250,000 investment or something to be able to consume just 100 MCF a day. And so, you have these wells that are flaring quadruple, 10 times that, then it's like, well, somebody's got to bring millions of dollars to the table, even if we want to try to start solving this problem. So who wants to bring the money? And is it going to be the producers? Is a bank going to finance it? Right? There's all these things that come into play. So I was lucky enough that, yeah.
Is a bank going to finance this one day, do you think?
Absolutely. I think they're already talking about, I guarantee you, I already have talked to some people. There's banks that are going to be financing, I'm talking massive turbine engines, like 20 megawatt engines that are powered by natural gas, engines you could power a town with. I know that's for a fact is going to be happening.
Pound that like button, people. You're getting insider information. Denver Bitcoin is linked to below, just showing everybody this beautiful shirt here. You can get shirts like this linked to below, of course. All right, sorry, I kind of interrupted you there because I wanted to know, when people bring up banks, they say they're so evil toward Bitcoin, but they might be financing some Bitcoin-related businesses here. So was there something else you wanted to say before I interrupted you there?
No, I'd say banks will finance anything they can get a return on. I think that's really the name of their game is they want to return. Now, initially, yeah, and this is more of an oil and gas play than it is a Bitcoin play, right? One of the great things about it, and the reason that I wanted to get involved is I plan on accumulating Bitcoin as my personal, treasury asset, my personal wealth. And this is a way to dollar cost average into Bitcoin at every price over time. And I'm doing it at a discount. Right. So even if the price, crashes, even if it pumps, I'm buying it every day via this mining process at a discount. So it's just a way for me to maximize my long-term exposure to this asset, for me to constantly trade, paper money for Bitcoin through this, kind of complex energy conversion process of, on-site flare gas. So I think banks will get involved. Because it just makes sense. There's companies up in North Dakota that are flaring so much gas, they have to shut their wells in at like the 18th day of the month because they already reached the limit of their permit. The amount of volume that they're allowed to flare that month, they already reach it. So they have to shut down and stop bringing in oil, right? So that's insane. So if you can mitigate this problem for them, if you can help reduce that flare amount on a daily basis, that can expand out to incredible amounts of capital freed up for them, and then they can take that and they can go explore and drill for new wells, which is what exploration and oil and gas producers love to do. They love to go drill a new hole and strike black gold. So I think it's just natural, right? It's a natural evolution of the industry due to the circumstances at play, due to the incentivization of mining, right? Cheapest power wins, and this natural gas is the cheapest power in the world right now, especially wasted natural gas.
You bring up North Dakota specifically there. Has it been a good year for you, first of all? And have you gotten inquiries from companies like up in North Dakota that have heard about you that are interested in this type of you bringing your services up to them?
Well, let me say this. So, I mean, I want to make sure you have a clear understanding. So again, like, I ended up as a third party bringing capital. I purchased infrastructure and had upstream data build it for me. And found a producer in North America that wants to have their gas conserved, but didn't want to expend the capital to do so. So I kind of got in that middle area. But I spent about half of a year, the second half of 2018, maybe a little bit of 2019, was cold calling oil and gas companies, trying to see, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? I think it's possible I could, reduce your flare amount. I could conserve your flared gas, and at no cost to you, right? I'll bring the capital. I just need you to allow me to have a small footprint on your well site, and we can come to some kind of an agreement where you'll do your due diligence to keep the well up and running as often as you can, and you need some kind of on-site maintenance, right? You need somebody that can go there if miners go down, if hash boards get fried, to change things out. So working out those kinds of details, I would be no problem. But trust me, initially approaching oil and gas companies, telling them that you're going to solve their flared gas problem, I mean, they laugh. Like I told my bosses this. When I was working in oil and gas, and I first kind of had this epiphanic moment where I thought, oh my gosh, like this could solve like a massive global problem. I went to my bosses and I was like, guys, I think all the flared gas that all of our clients are reporting, because I was seeing volumes. I was seeing their actual volumes that they were reporting to the state because I was helping them report them. And I told them this idea, and the way I tell people, and I remember it like it was yesterday, they open mouth laughed in my face. Like I could see their molars in the back of their mouth. They thought it was such a ludicrous idea coming from such a ludicrous and sophomoric person, considering I was in the oil and gas industry for 4 months at the time. So now I happen to be right, but from there, at the time, I don't blame them, right? I was just some nobody that had this off the wall idea that sounded absolutely ridiculous to anybody that is legacy oil and gas. So these cold calls I made to companies saying, hey, I think I can help, mitigate your gas. They more or less laughed or hung up or said, don't call back. Right. So it's a tough sell. Now I think that tide is changing. I think, they're starting to come around. The oil price being where it is, a lot of companies have a lot of cash on hand and nowhere to put it because they don't want to go explore right now. So I think maybe if I called them today, that would change. They might already be looking into the solution, right?
Yeah, well, I got to say, this is truly a golden age that we're living in. You're going. I mean, you said yourself you were a nobody, but I mean, you started something pretty big here. I mean, you've got a legitimate business here. People laughed at first. They're not going to be laughing too much longer, yeah. and you're not laughing. I mean, you're mining Bitcoin. You've gotten Bitcoin out of this situation, man.
Yes. Yeah, and we're doing good. I mean, we are doing better than I thought we would be doing at this point, right? I mean, and again, I was almost under the impression like, hey, if we break even on this investment after 5 years, great. I really wanted to help push this forward because I think it is the future, right? I think there will be a massive shift in the oil and gas industry for this reason, and kind of for the reasons I spoke about earlier, where if you're able to help these producers maximize the amount of hydrocarbons they're producing, help them better allocate their resources, they're going to go out and they're going to put that capital to work, over and over again. So there's this compounding effect to the, increasing the efficiency at which these producers operate on a day-to-day basis. And that's something that Steve is amazing at, right? I mean, I think he's more of an oil man maybe than a Bitcoiner, because he's got such incredible know-how and extensive knowledge in the oil and gas industry. He truly helps producers capture more hydrocarbons. So, I wanted that. I wanted to be a part of that. I believed in it. I believe in Bitcoin. I think it's a noble cause. I think Bitcoin empowers the individual. That's why I even hang around on Bitcoin Twitter still. I mean, I wouldn't be on Twitter if there wasn't Bitcoin, but all Bitcoiners have the same core motive, and that is to empower the individual. Because when individuals are empowered, the world's a better place. And, that's something I'd like to throw a ton of capital at and invest my time and energy in because, I believe in it.
Yeah, individualism is the accomplishment. Collectivism is the default. You have accomplished bringing, increasing the word of individualism all over the world, and you are quite a unique beast individual. I got to say right here. So, and this is the thing. People love to say that Bitcoin is destroying the environment, all this stuff. What you just said is you're making the whole oil industry more efficient. Bitcoin makes these dudes more efficient. They're better able to allocate resources when you throw your technique or Steve's technique, whatever you want to call it, into the mix. So this is very exciting. Now, do you see a lot of people like to talk about China dominating Bitcoin mining? Although if they look at the statistics, percentage-wise, the Bitcoin mining has worldwide Bitcoin mining, not as much of it is in China anymore. Do you think what we've been talking about here is going to further shift mining into North America and away from China?
I sure hope so. Right. I mean, you can even look at just recently, with China, their wet season kind of came to an end, and the miners out there saw a pretty significant increase in their power costs, and at the same time, you're seeing record high hash rate on the network. So you saw a pretty big dip in the amount of hash rate on the network, and a difficulty adjustment is soon to come. But this process hardens Bitcoin. I mean, it to a degree, I think most probably don't comprehend it, currently. And because if you think about it, one, there are thousands of oil and gas wells all over the United States, all over Canada, that are out in the middle of nowhere, right? A lot of the time, stranded and waste gas is a problem because of geography. There's just no infrastructure. It's just not economic to build a pipeline all the way out to the middle of fucking nowhere, unless there's already, sorry about the swearing, but in the middle of nowhere, unless there's already infrastructure in some kind of, close proximity. Again, they're just going to run numbers. It's going to cost us, $70 million to build this pipeline. How long will until we make our money back by bringing that gas to market? And the ROI, looks like crap compared to mining Bitcoin, in my opinion. So, this hardens Bitcoin, right? The grid could go down, and my miners are still running, right? I mean, I'm still hashing. There's no central threat. These wells are all over the place, and pretty much anybody could do this. They don't even need a lot of gas, right? What they do need is relatively sweet gas, gas that doesn't have a lot of other compounds in it, a lot of the pentanes and hexanes and stuff that you would have to filter out before you combust, which would then render the process uneconomic. So, this makes Bitcoin better in every way. And also, North America has an incredible amount of resources. The hydrocarbons in North America are insane. And to say that I think China will slowly begin to lose its percentage of hash rate dominance, absolutely. I don't see it going any other way. I don't see grid mining lasting all that long, just because grid miners have to compete with me. And my power is cheaper than the grid. So the only people that I can't compete with are people laundering money, people that are okay spending $1 to get 85 cents back. I can't do that. So other than that, I mean, I can pretty much mine Bitcoin all the way down to, a price it'll probably never, ever get to again. So it's natural. This will naturally be the way in which the Bitcoin mining industry evolves, because it solves an oil and gas problem. It solves an environmental problem, right? It consumes waste gas, displaces other energy that's wasted other places in the world. I mean, how many freaking private, or how many jet flights for employees do banks have every day? How many buildings do they have? What's their carbon footprint? Right? We can displace a lot of that energy through consuming energy that's being wasted out in the middle of nowhere. So it's this kind of counterbalance and shift from being a waste of energy to a consumption of wasted energy. That, I mean, it's a 360-degree. Nobody's getting the short end of the stick in this process.
Right. I got to say, we got another guy from Colorado. Titan Boss is in the house. He says hello from Centennial, Colorado. So we got two guys in Colorado.
What's up?
We also got a very good question here. Brian, do you think renewable energy will present more profitable prospects for Bitcoin mining in future? Producers no longer face problem of storing unused energy off grid.
Oil and gas is the most renewable energy. It's the greenest energy source in the world. Okay, so like that's so my answer is pretty much no. I think there's applications for Bitcoin mining. I think, I've seen with wind power generation, there's times when they're at the trough of demand. They have excess energy, and so it might as well bring that energy to market via Bitcoin mining. How economic it is, I'm not real privy to the specifics and kind of the costs of that. But what I'll say is it won't make sense to do it on any kind of amazing grand scale with renewables until we consume all the gas. And Bitcoin is going to have to be about $6-7 million a coin for it to be economic for all this gas to get used to mine Bitcoin. So maybe, but not until the gas is used. I don't know why somebody would go there for power when the natural gas solution is better. Plus, it's, for the most part, it's continuous energy, right? This wouldn't be something that's only these miners wouldn't be just kicking on during times of low demand. On an oil and gas site, it's pretty much continuous gas being wasted that you can consume. So my answer would be maybe. It might help those companies that are in the renewable space, again, allocate their resources better, bring excess energy to market and essentially capture what would be considered consumer surplus, because Bitcoin mining is a energy consumer market. But I don't think it's going to dominate the way natural gas will.
All right. Very, very good question. I'm glad people are paying attention here. This is hey man, I'm bringing you Bitcoin mining. I don't usually do this, but I do get asked about Bitcoin mining a lot. I got to tell you, people, they just, for me, the simple answer is, if you're interested in Bitcoin, buy the darn Bitcoin. Okay. But some people are like, oh, I've heard about this cloud mining and and obviously cloud mining is a scam, but they don't know that. But what I want to, a serious question out of all this. You've been in the Bitcoin mining space for some time. Would you advise anyone to get into it? Or is it just, do you need certain technical, do you need a lot of money? Is it, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants, a North American who wants to get into Bitcoin mining? Or would you say just don't get into it at all?
I'd say Bitcoin mining is it's really hard. It's very difficult to be profitable mining Bitcoin, because it's a highly competitive game. There's two variables that are unpredictable, and that's the hash rate that's going to be on the network and the price of Bitcoin, right? Good news is the other kind of parts of it are constant. Things like the block reward that can all be anticipated, and you can project out years and get a pretty good idea of where you'll be at. But what you don't know is how many people get involved. And what I see currently is the opportunity cost of investing in all the infrastructure as a play just to accumulate a lot of Bitcoin, right? As like a Bitcoiner, you want to try to get the most amount of Bitcoin. I don't think mining makes the most sense right now. I mean, buying it on the open market never looks so good if you take a look at what mining profitability is currently. As price appreciates, that equation changes, but it's tough. Now, that's why I think it's going to make the most sense for oil and gas producers, because it's not a Bitcoin play to them, right? It's an oil and gas play, right? They have this problem with their oil and gas production where they have to stop producing oil because they're flaring too much gas. They can solve their own problem by doing this. And even if they just break even, earning Bitcoin on that gas, it still improves their crude oil production and, grows their entire revenue stream, right? It grows their ability to produce and bring in capital. So it makes a lot of sense for them. because they don't even care. They don't need to be long-term Bitcoin holders. They don't need to understand SHA-256. They just need to know that they can combust this gas and get returned a digital token that at the end of the day, it equals as much value as they put into it, right? So then they can and these guys are 50-year, they make 50-year decisions anyway. So for them, it makes a whole lot of sense. For people that are interested in spending, 50, 100 grand to buying computers and plugging them in some warehouse somewhere, I'd recommend against it, just because I don't think they're going to last long. Plus, this is the part that's hardly ever talked about. So the way I make business decisions is I always anticipate that everyone's going to screw me. Okay. I mean, maybe that's why I'm a Bitcoiner, because I'm skeptical and I don't trust, I verify. And so when I thought about, I had talked to a guy up in South Dakota that had a hosting facility that was pretty cheap power, right? He was offering me a pretty good deal to send up computers there. The threats, the external threats that are presented are insane. I mean, everything from regulators waking up one day and seeing that Bitcoin mining is taking too much power in their town and they come shut down the housing unit. What if the Bitcoin price absolutely explodes? Well, the guy that's hosting my miners, he could just pick up the phone one day, call me and say, hey, the price just went up. And I'm like, well, we have a contract. He's like, yeah, well, I ripped it up. I'll see you in court. Because he's got other people that would pay him more than what I'm paying to host their miners there now that the Bitcoin price has risen up. So, and I don't trust him. I don't trust him to do good business. But with oil and gas, you're solving the operator's problem. And so they don't want you to go away. The regulators won't come in and shut you down because you're conserving emissions. It's those external threats go away, but there are some threats to on-site oil and gas because, the well can go down. So you lose your gas temporarily if they need to do a workover. There are risks to the oil field, but I found that to be a much more agreeable kind of construct of our position in business than just calling some guy and saying, hey, could you plug my miners in where you live because the power's cheap, right? So I recommend, I'd say think really long and hard about it and look at all the money you'd need to part with, and then look at just buying Bitcoin and see how you feel about what happens if the price rockets in 12 months.
Yeah, I love your advice. This is, you really explained it all in depth there. All the pitfalls that can occur. And this is what I try to tell people: just do the simple option, buy the darn Bitcoin. You don't need to get into all this complexity. I mean, do you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to build all this out? And if you've got that much money, just put it into Bitcoin. Take the simple thing. I say Bitcoin is where it's. I was going to say, it's really hard to beat Bitcoin's returns. It's just so hard to beat the returns of buying and holding Bitcoin. I mean, you could look at it a million different ways. And at the end of the day, usually in hindsight, you look back and go, shit, we should have just bought Bitcoin. No, that's what I say. All these people that have their cryptocurrency hedge funds, they need to manage all these altcoins. It's just buying Bitcoin beats it. I mean, keep it simple, stupid. KISS,
Well, yeah, plus they're rebalancing. So it's like Bitcoin goes up against their altcoins and they rebalance and they buy more of these altcoins. And then when they go down, altcoins go down more than Bitcoin. So then they end up having to reallocate more Bitcoin into altcoins to keep their portfolio balanced to the, allocation percentages that they agreed upon in their meeting or whatever. And they're shooting themselves in the foot, right? By the way, it's likely that I shot myself in the foot to some degree. I mean, you got to remember, Bitcoin was down to like $6,000, $5,000 when I was about to make this decision. When we started mining, Bitcoin was at like 5,800, and that was a fear that I had. I thought, hey man, we're going to put all this capital in, buy all this infrastructure, and then what happens if Bitcoin just skyrockets in like a month? Like we wouldn't have earned very much by this point yet. So we did a couple of things with our business that I thought was hindsight has proven to be a smart decision. And one was we allocated cash when I initially raised the capital. I wanted to have enough cash on hand to pay for any and all monthly costs or even unanticipated costs for about 18 to 24 months, right? So that way, and to this day, you know, my company, we haven't sold a single sat that we've mined, not one sat. So all the Bitcoin I mined at $6,000, I still have, right? I mean, I look like a genius because of it, but you know, at the time I could have sold it to help pay for any costs, but I was like, no, this was part of our plan. And then right when we started, we also took just a chunk of cash and just bought Bitcoin. I dollar cost averaged it about over a week. I think we got, you know, a pretty good price. We're certainly under $10,000, under $7,000 even. And so that way it was like, hey, if Bitcoin goes crazy next month, we don't lose out on that ride. So, you know, I thought a lot about that opportunity cost, and I wanted to try to mitigate. And I think we did a pretty good job. But in 3 years, if I look back, it might have just been better to buy and hold Bitcoin with all the money I spent. I mean, seriously, because it's hard to beat these returns. It's really difficult to beat the returns of buying and holding Bitcoin.
Hey, I give you all the credit in the world for never selling a darn Bitcoin, and at the same time having your treasury reserve from the very beginning in Bitcoin. You did try to mitigate the risk in a very good way. So guys, Bitcoin is where the big boys play. Bitcoin mining is where like the big boys who are cutthroat and gamble, and I mean don't go there. You don't need to go there. I gotta say, and even the Bitcoin miner is telling us that maybe it wasn't the best decision to be a Bitcoin, but you're doing great things. You're revolutionizing the space. You're revolutionizing oil, and you have done well. I love you are setting such a great example. You didn't buy a Lambo. You did what I preach here. Just never sell your darn Bitcoin, even though there's a lot of pressure.
Right.
You've got expenses. You've got legitimate expenses here. So, I mean, there's much more pressure on you running this business to sell your Bitcoin than like for someone like me who has minimized all expenses. But continue. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Well, yeah. And one really cool thing too is, you know, my business partner is my dad. So, you know, he's a boomer. And it's so much fun to be strategizing and talking about this industry with him because, you know, he comes from just such a different perspective. He was so skeptical. I mean, almost didn't even want to hear about it. But then when I started just showing up to my dad and pulling up PowerPoint presentations and starting to show him how much wasted gas there is, how many people have tried to economically bring it to market, how this might be the first time it could ever be done, and how this is going to be a energy demand emerging market, right? This Bitcoin mining thing, and ultimately how this just improves everything it touches in the oil and gas space for that reason. So he started coming around to that. He started thinking like, well, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't even need to be the next gold for this to be a legitimate process. But if it is the next gold, this would be a really big opportunity. So then we started looking at risk. We started actually running like numbers we planned on investing, and we decided to take the risk. Now, again, I mean, you say like, you know, I'm helping to, you know, revolutionize the space. I mean, I would kind of almost disagree with you, right? I mean, I'm like a guy that found somebody who was building a really cool rocket ship. And I asked him if I could like help him build it. And that guy is Steve. I mean, Steve's really the pushing this industry. He's the trailblazer, the guy through the wall. I just thought that he was a really good person to you know, be in business with in any regard. I thought that he was of the right mind. Certainly was overqualified, and I was happy to invest capital to help him you know, have a customer essentially and grow, and then, you know, help him move on to whatever next stages he was going into. Plus, you know, I could always come back and buy more stuff from Steve, right? And that's something that I wanted that option, right? I wanted to be involved so bad because I just believed in this process, and I was a little spiteful that my bosses laughed at me, and I wanted to show them how wrong they were, and they were. They came around. You know, I met with one of my bosses, and he actually said the words, "You are ahead of the curve," and that was good to hear. Plus, then he went and read the Bitcoin Standard. So, and he's 65 years old.
Dude, you're very modest here. I mean, you're like, I mean, Paul, in the time of Jesus, he was spreading all that Jesus stuff around. You're like the Bitcoin Paul or something. And I guess Barbour is Jesus in this situation. I'm no Christian here. I'm Jewish, but I'm just trying to make some comparisons so people can understand. Here, you're spreading the word. Paul did a lot for Jesus. I mean, there would be no Christianity today. So okay. So there's some. Correct me, New Testament people. Correct me if I'm wrong here. All right, now, I mean, and now, so we talked before. We got a question here, but I want to go back to the to altcoin portfolios and whatnot. Of course, my crypto portfolio is just Bitcoin. All right. But is your crypto Bitcoin portfolio just Bitcoin? Have you mined Litecoin or anything else, or have you thought about that at all?
No, but I've flipped a bunch of miners. I mean, I've flipped a bunch of Antminer L3s. I never plugged them in other than to test that they weren't broken. But I don't see why you would use energy for anything other than Bitcoin. I mean, energy is the only currency in the universe. Okay, that's just a fact. That's why gold is valuable, because it takes a lot of energy to find it, because it's scarce. And it's you can't just create it. So it's to spend that mining Litecoin. No, it didn't cross my mind, because I mean, plus there's a lot more risk with that, right? I mean, I wouldn't trust I don't trust the proto nearly as much. It's not nearly as defensible. SHA-256 is a much better algorithm. So no. Is Bitcoin the only thing I hold? Yes. But I mean, I'm kind of one of those guys that, like, I don't blame people. I don't hate them or something for holding some altcoin. I think, especially if I had like $50 million that I wanted to invest in this space, I mean, I probably would allocate a certain percentage to these other coins, just because it would be foolish probably not to. Now, the more I know about Bitcoin, I think it's probably foolish to do that. But I could see why they would do that. The people that pissed me off are the people that, try to come and say that, Dash is better than Bitcoin, or it does what Bitcoin does better. Then I'm like, dude, I got no time for you. But I don't necessarily condemn people for speculation. I don't partake in it myself, because I don't know why I would hold it. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
there's people, you said if some big millionaire came to the space, they're used to diversifying for the sake of diversification. So they might think there's a risk in only having Bitcoin, and they're not a villain if if they've got that mentality.
No,
and I like your mentality. I agree with you. I'm not into destruction here. If people can do what they want to do, but they got to understand, I'm going to keep on saying Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Value your freaking wealth in Bitcoin. Pound like button. So it is different than all the rest. And if people want to learn the hard way that it's different than all the rest, then be my guest. But they're not necessarily
right. Exactly. And I mean, I'm happy to call out the people that are going to, again, come in and say Bitcoin is dial-up internet, while other coin is broadband or some crap. I mean, like, that's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, first of all, you don't understand the entire purpose of this asset. I mean, read the white paper, right? This is about sovereignty over your wealth, and that's the reason that Bitcoin is slower, is because that's how you get security. Is you make it that rigid to try to reverse a block. It has to be extremely difficult and disincentivized, and that I don't have any time for that conversation, because they've already missed the point. And I'm happy to say you're wrong and move on. The guys that want to diversify, it's your money, and I don't blame you. And like I said, if I had some insane amount of wealth, I might do it too, just because it's like, who knows? I mean, it's like I'm going to make so much more money on Bitcoin appreciating anyway. If I allocate this tiny percentage into these coins and they lose, I'm still, way green. Like, I could see that argument, and I don't vilify or condemn those people. I just think they're wrong.
I do want to point out that most of the people that inquire about altcoins, they are very far from being rich, and so they're not the ones to be gambling, not at all. But you're giving you're giving it a scenario where, someone's so rich, they can gamble or whatever like that.
Well, right. Yeah. The nominal returns on Bitcoin are going to outweigh any, if they had put 3 million into Bitcoin, if they threw 1,000 into 5 different coins or something like that, like, you know what I mean? The risk is almost non-existent because a small Bitcoin appreciation already nets them that money back. So I don't condemn it. I just think, that's just where they're coming from. I mean, and it's their choice.
So let's we got some more questions here. First of all, YK says this dude deserves respect and good for you. Wish you much success. He does.
Thanks,
I mean,
man.
everyone should know about you. This is such an entrepreneurial endeavor, and someone who's in motion, taking advantage of the golden age, involving another industry, a controversial industry. Fighting back against the climate change FUD. I mean, this is good stuff you're bringing to the table.
And that's the biggest point here. Okay, this is one of the most horrifying realities I think will come to fruition as Bitcoin becomes impossible to ignore by the mainstream world, right? And it becomes impossible to ignore when the price becomes impossible to ignore. And the fight that I think is coming from, the climate alarmists, the oil and gas industry villainizers, I don't think we have any idea what's coming. I think it's going to be vicious. And I mean, it's in the bank's best interest to fund these climate alarmists, right? So, I mean, there's people that will win by Bitcoin losing, and the people that will win by Bitcoin losing are people that are powerful. So I think we have a huge war ahead of us, and it's just a war of trying to communicate the truth. And the truth is, Bitcoin doesn't waste energy; it displaces wasted energy. So guys like Steve Barbour are, in my opinion, of the most importance in this space, because he is not only able to so greatly articulate why the climate alarmists are just simply wrong, but he's actually, he's put his blood, sweat, and capital on the line to establish this industry so that he can, when they come screaming that Bitcoin wastes energy, he just points his finger and says, no, it doesn't. I mean, look at this. Right. I mean, so I think that's going to be a really tough time, and it's going to, what it does to price, I don't care, because that's irrelevant to me. What's relevant is to make sure that people actually understand what this is. The disinformation will only grow. It's only going to get more intense, and it's important we get our ducks in a row.
All right. Here's a question. How big of a gas facility, CFM, do you need to set up a mining operation?
You don't need much.
What is the area footprint? Thanks.
Well, with some of the stuff Steve designed, I mean, the footprint on an oil and gas site is pretty small, right? I mean, I guess depending upon the size of the engine, and the size of the engine depends upon the amount of gas that you're consuming. Also modularizing this process is in the best interest, because, if you have 10 smaller engines with little housing units on a well, say something happens with that well, it goes down, there's a big problem with it, and it's not going to produce any hydrocarbons for a couple months or even a year or something. There's a big issue. Well, you could just pick your infrastructure up and go drop it on another well that's got gas, plumb the flare line, and you're back up and running. So it's not a very big footprint. The amount of gas you need to create or generate a significant amount of electricity per day isn't that much. I mean, like I said, in order to consume even, I mean, I say the word 100 MCF, right? MCF means 1,000 cubic feet, and a well that is flaring 100 MCF a day is not rare, right? There's a lot of them, and there's wells out there that are flaring a lot more than that. North Dakota is a great example. There's so much gas being flared up there, and in order to consume this gas, it's a ton of engines, or like something like a 20 megawatt turbine engine that, is an insane capital investment. So it doesn't take much gas. There's oil and gas operators or producers that inherited a well out in the middle of nowhere, that maybe they have 2 or 3 from their great grandfather, and it's still burping up just a little bit of gas, and they're getting fined from regulators every month. So they're just not making as much money on their royalties. this is something really great for them because they're never going to get a pipeline. They don't have enough gas that it will ever make sense for them to get infrastructure in place to bring that gas to market. So this is a method that they can use to just kind of better their position, allocate their resources better. And because even though they have a little bit of gas, they can still generate, 50, 100 kilowatts of electricity, and you can power a good bit of computers with that.
Wow, man. I got to say, this has been quite an experience, a learning experience. You guys aren't going to, I tell you, I bring you the best freaking guest in the space, and I bring you insider information. This has been a combination of that, definitely. I think more people out there should have you on their shows, should be writing about you. I don't know why they're not, because this is a big deal, and you're fighting the FUD out there too.
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
yeah, I'm certainly, I'm going to be one of the biggest advocates for this that you'll meet. Am I building that future? Not really, but I certainly helped finance partly building it and pushing it forward, right? And I'm living it, and I'm certainly able to articulate it and defend the ideas as to why this is a better world with mining Bitcoin. And so, I think those, maybe they're intangible, maybe they're not all that valuable, but they're going to become more valuable as Bitcoin sees greater and more powerful threats, right?
Well, financing is a very important part of the building process.
That's fair.
Very important part of the whole situation. All right, so yeah, you're linked to below. They can check out your Twitter and ask you questions, and I hope you get some media inquiries out of this. Yeah, keep doing. You even threw in the power grid FUD. You said if the power grids went down, which they're not. I mean, you'd still be operational and everything. So yeah. So any conclusionary thoughts before you go here? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it back to you, man. I think I told you before we started that I went and watched a few of your podcasts just to kind of get a better idea of who you were. And man, your energy is contagious, and your excitement and passion is noticeable. It doesn't go unnoticed. So you're just as much of an advocate or even more of a proponent in this space than I am. So good on you too, and a big tip of the cap.
Hey man, everybody is welcome in this space. Everybody plays a role. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a hype machine guy. I'm a creating a content guy, and you're a finance guy, a mining guy, an oil guy, fight the FUD guy. Anyone can do something in this space. Be an artist in this space. I've said this is not just for technical gurus. You can come from any side of the educational world and make your mark here. You don't need an education at all. And don't let anyone say no to you. And you definitely didn't let people discourage you when their mouths were wide open, laughing at you. I mean, you get the last laugh. Bitcoin has the last laugh, everybody. Okay, I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. Subscribe to this channel, baby. Pound that like button. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday. Oh, and we were talking about altcoins before. For all you people who stick around for this long in the show, remember on Thursday, 1:30 Los Angeles time, Charlie Lee of Litecoin is going to be on this show. So I'll talk about that more tomorrow. But Denver Bitcoin, again, thank you very much. And we are